$13.6 trillion. That is the total net worth of every Canadian household combined. A pile of cash so high it would reach past the moon, twice. And inside that massive pile of wealth sits a little account, a tax-free savings account, the TFSA. The headlines tell you it is the greatest wealth-building tool ever invented. The government calls it a gift. Your bank sends you emails every January saying, your contribution room is ready. But here is the quiet truth no one wants to shout. Most Canadians are using this account completely wrong. They are treating it like a second checking account. They are parking cash inside it like a rusty savings account. They are making one single mistake that costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars in growth over their lifetime. Maybe millions. And today, we are going to fix it. You have heard the phrase, asset rich, cash poor. Well, in the TFSA world, the problem is exactly the opposite. It is tax-free rich, growth poor. Let me show you what I mean. Pull up your online banking right now. Look at your TFSA balance. What do you see? For the average Canadian, that number sits around $45,000. $45,000. That is the average TFSA balance across the country. Now look at your contribution room. If you have been 18 or older since 2009 and you have never contributed a single dollar, your total room today is over $95,000. $95,000 in room, $45,000 in the account. That $50,000 gap is not empty space. That is the graveyard of your future wealth. That is the money you could have had but did not. And it gets worse. Because the average Canadian does not just leave their TFSA underfunded. They leave it uninvested. Statistics Canada recently looked at what people actually hold inside their TFSAs. Nearly half of all TFSA holders keep their money in cash. Plain cash. The same cash that earns less than 1% interest. The same cash that inflation eats for breakfast. 46% of TFSA accounts are just sitting there, idle, safe, debt. Let me introduce you to two people. They do not have names, but you know them. Person A is the typical Canadian. They open a TFSA at their bank. The teller smiles. They deposit $500. It sits in cash. It earns almost nothing. Every year, they maybe throw in another $1,000. They forget about it. Life gets busy. 20 years pass. That TFSA is worth maybe $25,000, mostly from contributions, almost nothing from growth. They pat themselves on the back. At least I saved something. Now meet Person B. Person B reads one article, just one. They learn that a TFSA is not a savings account. It is a container, a bucket, and you can put almost anything inside that bucket. Stocks, bonds, index funds, exchange-traded funds. Person B puts their money into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund, the same fund that has returned roughly 10% annually over the last 50 years. They contribute the exact same amount as Person A, $500, then $1,000 a year. Nothing fancy. 20 years pass. Person B's TFSA is not worth $25,000. It is worth over $110,000. Same account, same contribution, same time period. $110,000 versus $25,000. That difference, that $85,000 gap, that is the cost of the number one TFSA mistake. The mistake of treating tax-free like it is enough. The mistake of forgetting that growth inside that account is also tax-free forever. And here is where it becomes genuinely painful. Because Person B did not take crazy risks. They did not buy Bitcoin. They did not gamble on a hot stock. They bought the entire market. They sat still. They did nothing. And they came out with 4 times more money than the person who let their cash rot. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I get it. I need to invest my TFSA. But I do not have a lump sum. I am living paycheck to paycheck. I have got $3,000 in my checking account and a credit card bill I have been ignoring since last summer. I hear you. And this is where the second mistake lives, the mistake of waiting. So many Canadians look at that $95,000 of contribution room and they panic. They think, I will never fill that, so why bother? So they do nothing. But here is the secret that liquid millionaires understand. You do not need to fill the room. You just need to occupy it. Think of your TFSA like a piece of real estate. Every dollar of contribution room is a square foot of tax-free land. And once you turn 18, that land is yours forever. But here is the catch. If you do not use it, you lose it. Not permanently. The room rolls forward. But the time you lose, the compounding years, those never come back. The median TFSA contribution in Canada is just over $3,000 a year. $3,000, that is $250 a month. That is one less restaurant dinner per week. That is making coffee at home. $250 a month invested in a balanced portfolio over 30 years becomes over $300,000. Tax-free. $300,000 that the government will never touch. But only if you start. Only if you stop waiting for the perfect moment. Because the perfect moment does not exist. What exists is Tuesday night with a calculator and a decision. Let me show you the math that changed how I think about this account. A 25-year-old who contributes just $200 a month into a TFSA, invested in a diversified portfolio earning 7%, will have over $500,000 by age 65. A 35-year-old who does the exact same thing will have roughly $240,000. A 45-year-old will have just over $100,000. That is not a small difference. That is not a rounding error. That is the difference between retiring with $500,000 and retiring with $100,000. And here is the painful part. The 45-year-old did not do anything wrong. They just started later. The window did not close on them, but the view from inside that window changed forever. So what is the fix? How do you stop making this mistake? I spent time studying the people who have actually done this right. The Canadians who have maxed out their TFSAs, who have grown them into $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 accounts. And three patterns emerge. They are not complicated, but they are consistent. Fix number 1. Automate your contributions immediately, not next week, not when you get your tax refund, today. The liquid millionaires treat their TFSA like a bill they pay themselves first. They set up an automatic transfer of $50, $100, $200 every single paycheck. It leaves their account before they see it, before they can spend it, before life gets in the way. Statistics Canada shows that only 7.5 million tax filers contributed to a TFSA in 2023, in a country of over 30 million adults. That means the vast majority are not contributing in any given year. Do not be the vast majority. Even if it is $20 a week, even if it is just the change from your pocket, automate it, because consistency beats intensity every single time. Fix number 2. Stop hoarding cash inside your TFSA. I know the bank told you a savings account inside your TFSA is safe, and it is, but safe is not the goal. Growth is the goal. The average high-interest savings account inside a TFSA pays less than 2%. Inflation is running at 3, 4, sometimes 5%. That means your safe cash is actually losing purchasing power every single year. You do not need to become a stock picker. You do not need to watch Wall Street every morning. You need one thing: a low-cost, diversified index fund, the S&P 500, the TSX 60, a balanced ETF. These are not risky. These are the entire economy. These are thousands of companies bundled into one product you can buy inside your TFSA for zero commission on any discount brokerage. And here is the mindset shift. You are not gambling. You are owning. When you buy the S&P 500, you own Apple. You own Amazon. You own the banks. You own the railroads. You own the economic engine of North America. That engine has returned roughly 10% annually for nearly a century. Will it go down some years? Yes. 2008 was terrible. 2020 was terrifying. But over 20 years? Over 30 years? It always goes up. And when that engine goes up inside your TFSA, the government gets exactly 0% of it. Fix number 3. Stop using your TFSA for short-term goals. This is the mistake that hurts the most, because it feels responsible. People put their emergency fund inside their TFSA. They put their down payment savings inside their TFSA. They think, I am being smart. It is tax-free. But here is the problem. When you withdraw that money, you lose the contribution room until the next calendar year. And if you are constantly dipping in and out, you never let compounding do its work. The TFSA is not a checking account. It is not a savings account for next year's vacation. It is a 40-year wealth-building machine. Keep your emergency fund in a regular high-interest savings account outside the TFSA. Keep your down payment in a first home savings account or an RRSP if you are a first-time buyer. Leave your TFSA alone. Let it grow. Let it breathe. Let it become what it is supposed to become. A mountain of completely tax-free money that you can pull from in retirement without paying a single dollar to the Canada Revenue Agency. Let me tell you about someone real. Her name is not important, but she is a client of a financial planner I studied. She was a nurse, single mom, never made more than $70,000 a year, but every paycheck she put $150 into her TFSA, automated, unbreakable. She put it all into a simple balanced ETF, nothing fancy, nothing exciting. 15 years later, that TFSA was worth over $80,000. She used it to take a year off work when her mother got sick. She did not need a loan. She did not need to sell her house. She had liquid, tax-free, accessible wealth that she built on a nurse's salary. That is the power of this account. That is what we are all chasing. Not the yacht, not the private jet, the freedom to take a year off, the freedom to fix the furnace without a panic attack, the freedom to retire at 65 instead of 75. And that freedom is available to almost every single person watching this video. But only if you stop making the number one mistake. Do not leave your TFSA in cash. Do not leave it empty because you are waiting for the perfect moment. Do not treat it like a second checking account. Automate, invest, and walk away. The difference between the Canadian who retires with $500,000 and the Canadian who retires with nothing is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is not a secret inheritance from a rich uncle. It is $100 a paycheck. It is an index fund. It is 20 years of patience. That is it. So here is your assignment. And I mean this. Do not just nod along and close this video. Open your banking app right now. Check your TFSA balance. Then check your contribution room on the Canada Revenue Agency website. It takes 3 minutes. If you have cash sitting in that account doing nothing, move it into an index fund tomorrow. If you have not set up an automatic contribution, set it up tonight for the next payday, even if it is $20, because the $18.6 trillion of Canadian household wealth, a huge chunk of it is locked in houses people will never sell. It is trapped in drywall and property taxes. But your TFSA? That is liquid. That is yours. That is the wealth you can actually touch. Do not let it sit empty. Do not let it rot in cash. Go build your mountain, and the government will never touch a single dollar. If you learned something from this video, hit that subscribe button. Let us fix this together.